Welcome to Carbon Focus, the headlines for this quarter. Heading towards net zero carbon, we bring you the latest carbon emissions news for 2022 across BAM UK and Ireland. Energy price chaos, we bring you up to speed with the unprecedented volatility in the energy market and the effects of the red diesel tax reforms. Recycling in the round, we explore how circularity was delivered at the BAM Plaza Cinema project. Decarbonising precast concrete, we've been speaking to Forticrete to discover how they are delivering more sustainable and lower carbon products. And powering our future, we take a look at the latest developments in alternative fuels and our involvement with the red diesel replacement competition. Our direct emissions across the UK and Ireland for the first half of 2022 continue to trend downwards and stand at 20,000 tonnes of carbon emissions. That's equivalent to the annual emissions from 2,500 households. This is a 20% reduction compared to the first half of 2021 and a whopping 35% less than 2015 levels. This puts us on track to achieving our science-based target by the end of 2023 and is an excellent progress towards the ultimate goal of net zero carbon emissions. These reductions have been realised predominantly due to changing from fossil-based diesel to the biofuel HVO, increasing grid power connections over diesel generators, and continued process efficiencies associated with value engineering, digital construction, and modular construction practices. Stay tuned for more statistics and the forecast for the second half of 2022. In recent months, there's been an unprecedented amount of volatility in the price of energy, affecting all sources. Liquid fuels used on site are up approximately 150%, electricity up 200%, and natural gas up a whopping 500% compared to levels seen in the winter of 2021. As this volatility continues to play out, it's not yet clear how these price increases will affect our decarbonisation efforts in the medium and long term. However, early indications show that a substantially higher price increase for liquid fuel is driving further considerations for grid connections and renewable and hybrid remote power generation. The cost pressure means it's more important than ever to consider our energy use and employ measures that reduce energy consumption wherever possible. Everybody can do their bit to reduce energy, and simple actions such as switching off electrical appliances at the wall, turning down heating systems, and being mindful of idling plant can collectively stack up to make a big difference. For more information on energy efficiency measures, speak to your local sustainability advisor. Circularity is one of the themes within our sustainability strategy, but being truly circular in the built environment is a real challenge. There is a tendency to focus on our construction waste output as the KPI for circularity, but we actually need to consider things such as recycled content, using bio-based materials, and the opportunities for reuse of materials being used on our projects today. The use of steel at the BAM Plaza Cinema project is a great example of circularity in practice. Here's Amanda Wright to explain more.
I'm Amanda, Regional Sustainability Advisor for Western Region for BAM Construct. The BAM and SALSA pilot circular economy initiative we did at the Plaza Cinema in Port Talbot. So we had steel roof trusses to be removed. I met Ewan from SALSA at the Supply Chain Stability event, networking over coffee as it is. He had the idea. I had the project as such. I just completed a waste management plan for the project planning. So I was aware of the steel trusses to be removed. I spoke to my project. My PM and surveyor were enthusiastic to do something different on the project, circular economy. The added benefits of this project, apart from it was the right thing to do, is we had 30 tonnes of carbon saved on the project, and that was a combined of the 24 tonnes of scrap metal from the trusses being recycled locally in the UK, it was in Wales, in Cardiff, and 40 tonnes of new rebar being purchased back onto the project. So that was the circularity of the pilot study as well.
Decarbonising concrete continues to be a challenge for our industry and still accounts for around 7% of global emissions. Thankfully, we're beginning to see a greater adoption of cement replacement for mass fill and non-structural applications. But the story for precast concrete is quite different. Recently, I spoke to Forticrete, one of our precast concrete product suppliers, to learn more about how they are working towards improving the sustainability credentials of their products.
So one of the things that we're looking at within the business is looking at more sustainable materials. This is us looking at recycled materials and secondary materials as they're running through. So we actually recycle all our waste material here on site. That goes through a reprocessing process, and we then put that back into the product. We then look at reducing our body carbon, looking at alternative cements. So instead of just using a straight SEM1 product, we put blended materials into that. That then reduces the embodied CO2 equivalent and produces a product that's fit for purpose. So over the last 18 months, we've been involved with a project here to decarbonise the product, as you rightly state. That's looking at the raw materials, the cement products they're actually utilising, and that's looking at the reinforcement they're actually using in the products as well. Okay, so again, we've removed 80% of the SEM1 content from the product. That's then being replaced with things like GTBS, PFAs, fillers, and special additives that actually give the concrete performance and durability, so it actually meets the network requirements. And then the second stage of that is then looking at the reinforcement. So currently we've used standard steel reinforcement. We then look to remove that, look at giving the longevity of product, and we're doing that by things like basalt reinforcement, the alternatives there. That gives us extended design life, improved performance, and an end-of-life product as well. So it's fully recyclable as we go through with it.
It's well understood that the elimination of carbon-intensive fuels such as gas, oil and diesel are the #1 focus for decarbonising construction site emissions. The switch to the ultra-low carbon biofuel HVO over the past year has contributed a great deal to our reductions, but is by no means a long-term solution, and moving away from this towards electrification and hydrogen is the ultimate goal. But for hydrogen in particular, we face a somewhat chicken and egg situation, whereby for there to be hydrogen-enabled plant, there needs to be a reliable and clean way of bringing green hydrogen to our projects. This is the type of hydrogen that is produced from renewable electricity. So to support development of hydrogen technologies, we're pleased to bring you the exciting news relating to our involvement with the government's red diesel replacement competition. The competition was launched in late 2021, and BAM, in partnership with ITM Power, BRE, Cenex and PowerStar, were successful in securing funding for Phase 1 of the scheme to develop a solution for producing green hydrogen at our depots and potentially on our projects. Phase 1 will see the completion of a feasibility study, after which we will apply for Phase 2, which would see government backing to build it. We'll bring you more news of this development in future episodes of Carbon Focus. Now let's hear from Max for the latest carbon forecast.
It has been a relatively mild first half of 2022, with 20,000 tonnes of carbon emissions recorded across the UK and Ireland division. The split of emissions across the segments shows that civil engineering activities contribute the most to our footprint, with key emission hotspots arising from specific projects including HS2, Brisbane Metro, Sky Studios and the new Children's Hospital. Activities from our newly formed Ventures segment also accounted for a noticeable amount of emissions, predominantly arising from their staff transport. Overall, we have achieved a 20% decrease in emissions compared to the same period in 2021. Workload overall remains to be at similar levels, making this reduction a truly impressive achievement. The record-breaking quantity of HVO biofuel at 1.25 million litres for the first half of 2022 has contributed to a reduction of 3.4 kilotonnes of carbon emissions, which is equivalent to 2.5 million HGV equivalent miles. There is great progress being made towards reducing the number of diesel generators on our projects, with close to 100 solar and battery solutions being deployed across the UK and Ireland. Of the 100, 52% are welfare units, 40% are tower lights, and 8% are generators. The increase in use of these technologies is further helping to reduce fuel use overall and avoid unnecessary carbon emissions. Looking into the second half of 2022, we expect carbon emissions to stay relatively consistent with those seen in the first half of the year, and we're on track to meet our long-term carbon reduction targets. That's all for now. Back to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Max. So that's all for this edition of Carbon Focus. Thanks for watching and see you again on the next edition.